Good morning. Good morning. This morning's front page is taken up with this rather large photograph of some devastation in Ukraine, where, as is evident, peace does not appear to have come quite as quickly as we would have hoped or were promised. However, the big lead story here is by the Supreme Court reporter, a guy called Adam Liptak. It's always good when the Supreme Court reporter is on the front page of the newspaper. You know that under Donald Trump, that only means good news. Anyway, it's all about how Donald Trump is sort of flirting with defying court orders. He has done a couple of things lately that have evidenced complete disrespect for federal courts. The first is he banned an Associated Press photographer from being in the press pool, which is not great because the Associated Press, as you know, is a wire service that goes all over the world. And in general, democracies like to have press scrutiny. So not great. A judge ordered that had to stop, and the Trump administration is still ignoring the order. They're still excluding the Associated Press from their press events. So then what? Well, evidently, the Associated Press will get a lawyer and go to the Supreme Court, who will again probably rule that he has to pay attention. But the precedent he's setting is, I'm not going to pay any attention to court rulings unless they're from a Supreme Court, which I've stacked. It's sort of gumming up the judicial works, and legal scholars are very concerned. They say it's an escalating trend, and it's escalating the wrong way. The other big thing that's happened this week is the Trump administration has been ordered by the Supreme Court to follow a judge's order to return a man that it illegally deported to El Salvador. The thing is, El Salvador is not within our jurisdiction, so we can't order El Salvador to return the man. But we can, as the United States, the most powerful country in the world, do the most we can to get him back. Of course, we haven't been doing that. What we did yesterday is bring the president of El Salvador to the Oval Office for a meeting where we said to TV cameras that we had no intention of following the order from the judge. The judge in that case, the lower judge, has now ordered the government to give her some information about this man. And again, the Trump administration is kind of slow rolling it, just not really trying to comply with the orders. Trump has said that if the Supreme Court orders him to return the man, then he will do it because, quote, I respect the Supreme Court. But the thing is, the Supreme Court doesn't actually, and it admitted this in its ruling, have the legal authority to order El Salvador to send him back. We can order the Trump administration to do a bit more, but it's setting up a confrontation with the Supreme Court that none of us really like. These are not the only executive orders by Trump or actions by the administration that have ended up stymied in court, because a lot of what the Trump administration is trying to do is illegal. You remember that they tried to stop paying out US aid grants, and a judge said you must pay out what was ordered by the Biden administration under its watch. The thing is, the Trump administration said, thanks very much for the order, and then they still slow rolled. The checks weren't arriving. It's this thing of like, judge orders you to do something. Yeah, sure, I'll put it on my list, right? And the question is how hard the judges are willing to push collectively in the face of this very different behavior by the president and his administration from any previous one. I don't love it. I suppose it makes me, I trust that the Supreme Court will rule in line with the law, even though some of them are ideological right. Some of them are terrible. And, there's always interpretation of the law, and a lot of them get it wrong, particularly on Roe versus Wade and other things. But most of those justices, particularly Amy Coney Barrett, who Trump appointed, and even Kavanaugh, they will only rule as far right as they're allowed to within the bounds of the law. And they don't, I would imagine, love seeing Donald Trump disrespect lower judges. They all came from that background or from law. They don't love the law profession being disrespected. And as we know, Trump has also hit out at high-profile law firms as well as academic institutions and kind of generally been following the dictator's playbook. The good news is Donald Trump's going to die eventually. So just let's all hold on to that, shall we? Eventually, the man will die. And so will all of us. I'm sorry that there's not more good news to share, but I hope that at least you enjoyed having me read the newspaper so that you don't have to. I'll see you in court.